round of the World Championships of Day 1. Justin Burns on the left. He is going to be running a team of Arcanine, Tapu Lele, Gyarados, Garchomp, Porygon 2, and Muck in its Alolan form. Tsao on the right with Gigalith, Kartana, Gyarados, Tapu Koko, Marowak, and a Pokemon that we haven't seen much of since the beginning of the format, a Pokemon that was very hyped up, Oranguru.
Yeah, so Oranguru was very hyped up at the very beginning of the format when Sun and Moon first came out because of that move Instruct, which combined with a Pokemon like Gigalith or any Pokemon that threatens just a lot of damage, Marowak as well can take advantage of it, but mainly Gigalith because it gets Rock Slide. So Instruct's going to give it that double chance to flinch, which not only is that really beneficial to you, but Rock Slide itself does a lot of damage, especially coming from Gigalith, which has Sky High attack. It gets the same type attack bonus. So if you're able to set up the Trick Room for the Gigalith and manage to get off Instruct Rock Slides, you're in a really, really good spot.
Not only that, Rock Slide's going to be doing good damage to two Pokemon that we clearly see that might be of interest for Justin to bring in the Gyarados and that Arcanine because of that Intimidate ability to try to mitigate the amount of damage that Gigalith is going to try to do.
Exactly. I think Garchomp also is going to be pretty important in this matchup because it is good against both the Marowak and the Gigalith. Now, if Trick Room is up, Marowak, if it's not intimidated, a Shadow Bone plus an Instruct could be able to take out the Garchomp. But if you're able to intimidate that Marowak, and considering you do have two Intimidators on the side of Justin, that is definitely a way he can kind of handle these physical sweepers in the likes of Marowak and Gigalith.
And we are ready now to get underway. Give it up for both of these players, Justin Burns and Tsao Che-Ming. Gyarados and Tapu Koko are the Pokemon that Tsao decides to lead with. Tapu Koko and Muck are going to be the Pokemon that Justin decides to lead with. It looks like Gyarados' Intimidate is actually going to go ahead and go before the Tapu Lele Psychic Surge, which is good information to have if you're Justin.
Yeah, that's really good information because Gyarados does usually carry some kind of extremely damaging attack. In this case, it might be something like a Z-Water move. That's going to do a lot of damage to Tapu Lele if it's carrying it. Tapu Koko, even in the Psychic terrain, can try and pick up a KO there if you double target the Tapu Lele. Of course, Muck did get intimidated, but it is still threatening either a lot of damage onto Tapu Koko with the likes of either a Poison Jab or a Gunk Shot, or it could go for a knockoff onto Gyarados. But of course, if Gyarados is a Z move, that knockoff really isn't going to accomplish a whole lot. So you have to imagine you probably go after the Tapu Koko, but Tapu Koko also usually does carry Volt Switch, so you kind of want to go for damage on Tapu Koko, but then also cover in case it goes for a Volt Switch.
Muck now going to switch out, going to go ahead and switch into Arcanine, going to use that Intimidate ability to intimidate that Gyarados. Gyarados is a fairly bulky Pokemon, does enjoy hitting on that physical spectrum. Of course, it does have access to Dragon Dance, but of course, it's going to slow it down in how much damage it can do, as Tapu Koko on Tsao's side goes for a Volt Switch here, going to hit into that Tapu Lele and go ahead and try to switch out, trying to, kind of reacting to that switch a little bit. That's one of the benefits of using Volt Switch or U-turn. So now Tsao trying to maintain momentum with a possible switch here.
Yeah, it really lets you readjust. You've gotten to see the Arcanine come in, so now you can make more of a more informed switch in, and we see the Kartana come in, trying to take a Psychic attack from Tapu Lele.
And Tsao now going to switch in the Kartana. Really interesting Pokemon to have come in, considering Arcanine was just on the other side of the field. Gyarados now going to go ahead and activate Waterium Z, going to go for a Hydro Vortex here, going to hit and do a good amount of damage. That Intimidate is going to mitigate the amount of damage that it could have done. It is going to hit the Tapu Lele now, going to go ahead and send it into a Spiral of Water, doing lots of damage, but Tapu Lele barely hangs on, as Tapu Lele goes for a Psychic, now boosted by that Psychic terrain, hitting that Gyarados. Gyarados gets one-hit KO'd, massive damage from that Tapu Lele.
Yeah, huge turn there. The Arcanine coming in with the Intimidate, saving Tapu Lele. That was huge. But also we did see, we mentioned before the turn started, how Gyarados was faster than the Tapu Lele, and you saw Tsao Che-Ming go for that double target into Tapu Lele, knowing that he was faster and knowing that he threatened to knock it out with a double target. But that Arcanine switching really paid off here.
Yep, Tapu Koko now switching in, going to go ahead and take away that Psychic terrain. The battlefield is no longer weird, but it will be boosting Tapu Koko's Electric-type attacks.
Yeah, so Kartana, it does have to watch out for Arcanine. Depending on its moveset, if it has something like a Substitute, that could be kind of neat because you could pick up a KO with Tapu Koko on Tapu Lele, have Kartana kind of stall, get a Substitute up, and then in case Arcanine decides to predict a Kartana potential Protect, you get a Substitute up for free, but it all depends on if he has it, but instead we see Marowak come in.
Kartana forced to switch out, going to preserve it for a little bit later, trying to deal with that Arcanine a lot better, but Justin seeing kind of right through that, going to switch out the Arcanine, preserving it for later, switching into Garchomp, which is a great Marowak counter. It's a revolving door of Pokemon, as Justin also switches out that Tapu Lele to preserve it, going to go back into that Alolan Muck, so all Pokemon have been revealed now on Justin's side, as Marowak draws away a Lightning Rod, because of the discharge here. So a little bit of synergy with that discharge, being able to bypass the lightning rod, does get a paralysis on Muk. Muk is not a speed Pokemon, but of course it is also now might not be able to move.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty interesting because Muk does have a very favorable matchup here against Marowak. It can knock off the Thick Club if it gets a chance to, although now it may not even get the chance to. Of course, strong against Tapu Koko. But yeah, Garchomp, though, is in a great position. It's just the Muk isn't really, threatening a whole lot here because it's paralyzed, because it could get knocked out with a simple attack from Marowak. But since you have Garchomp covering for it, threatening KOs onto both of these Pokemon, if you're Justin, you have to like the situation you're in with Garchomp at full HP. Tapu Koko can't knock it out, even if it goes for a Dazzling Gleam, but it may be Specs, and it may not even be able to go for that.
Yeah, that did do a lot of damage to that Muk in that Electric Train. Even Muk is a pretty bulky Pokemon. Marowak now, forced to protect itself, not going to want to possibly take a very powerful ground type attack.
Oh, look at that prediction.
A Fire Fang into that Kartana slot. Kartana hangs on though. Muk now going for a knockoff into that Marowak side, so good call right there from Justin. Just go for that Fire Fang.
Yep, he knew that Tapu Koko was likely switching out there, locked into the discharge. Probably didn't want to sacrifice itself since it needs to come back in and lock itself into Dazzling Gleam to have any kind of chance at taking out this Garchomp. You do manage to bring Kartana in. Unfortunately, you take a lot of damage, and you need to chip a little bit of HP off that Garchomp to put it into KO range for the Tapu Koko. And while Kartana is faster and may be able to do that, it's not looking good here for Tsao Che-Ming.
Yeah, Justin's been one step ahead of Tsao so far in this entire match. He's been doing a lot of switches. It is unfortunate that he got paralyzed, but, that switch into Kartana, he thought it would be safe to be able to switch that Kartana in, but Kartana getting heavily punished for coming in.
Yeah, because if Garchomp did go for an Earthquake, Kartana would have been a great switch, and it would have done maybe like 40% to it.
Ooh, Muk is paralyzed, cannot move. It was trying to use a plus priority attack right there. Kartana goes for a Leaf Blade, hitting that Garchomp. It might get even KO'd from that. It does get KO'd from that rough skin recoil. So there you go. Kartana gets fainted there, only being able to get off one Leaf Blade as Garchomp now goes for an Earthquake, going to hit the Muk as well, probably protecting that turn. Hitting Marowak, hitting Muk, doing massive damage. Marowak hangs on, but KOs his own Muk.
Yeah, that's brutal. Muk obviously going for a Protect there, but not able to pull it off thanks to the paralysis.
And now Muk going for a Flare Blitz here, going to do good damage to that Garchomp. Thanks to that Thick Club, does get the KO on that Garchomp. Of course, Rough Skin activates, but Marowak hangs on.
That is huge, though, because you managed to pick up a KO onto Garchomp, which was Justin's key to trying to win this match. Now, Marowak does go down, and there's still a Tapu Koko in the back, but Garchomp would have been great against that Tapu Koko. Now it's gone. Even Muk would have been great against it, but it got paralyzed and knocked out by its own Garchomp. That's a really tough turn by Justin. It might have been a little risky because that's only a 75% chance of working. That's not great, but I don't know what else he could have done that turn, so you kind of had to go for it, I guess. And he still has Arcanine against Tapu Koko and Tapu Lele going to get the terrain out, so he's still in a great position here, but we know Tapu Koko has Discharge. Things can happen when you go for Discharge.
There is one benefit of preserving that Tapu Lele from earlier, and that is going to be the fact that Tapu Lele takes away that terrain yet again, so the Discharge won't be doing as much damage. But with the Specs, with the chance of paralysis, Tsao still has an option.
Yeah, the Specs are going to be big here. You're going to have to get the paralysis because a combination of Flare Blitz and Extreme Speed should be able to pick up a KO on Tapu Koko, but we'll have to see. Discharge
comes out, does get the KO on the Tapu Lele as Flare Blitz right now from Justin's Arcanine, going to connect onto the Tapu Koko on South side, does do a lot of damage right now, and, well, does the Arcanine have Extreme Speed?
Yeah, that's also going to be really important because now Discharge actually gets an increase in power, exactly, because it's now a single target move.
Yep, and here's the Discharge. Tapu Koko moves first. No Extreme Speed coming out. That is enough to make it. Oh!
1 HP!
Justin's Arcanine hangs on with 1 hit point. Eats up its berry and now goes for a Flare Blitz, picks up the KO on South Tapu Koko. Huge survival right there. Even though it was single target, it hung on.
Unbelievable.
So close.
Wow, 1 HP away from getting knocked out. Unbelievable.
I was about to call that over, and
then
it just hung on. So Justin takes game 1 here.
Yeah. Now, he was in a great spot a lot of the ways through that battle, but boy, was that nail-biting. But that was a very important piece of information that did get revealed that last turn. This Arcanine has to be lacking Extreme Speed, otherwise it would have gone for it to try and pick up that KO onto Tapu Koko. So that could be some important information here heading into Game 2 and potentially Game 3.
Yeah, and if only the terrains played out just a little bit more in Tsao's favor. And that's one of the great things about this game, right? Things that you do a couple turns before could end up having a big impact on the end game as well. Not just moves that actually like are turn-based, like Trick Room or Tailwind, but itself, like how you preserve your Pokemon and how they switch in. So, you know, Justin kind of took advantage of that. Now going into team preview for Game 2, Tsao's going to have to make slight adjustments here.
Yeah, though I don't know if he really needs to adjust too much from the team preview perspective because he was in a great spot there. If Kartana didn't get Fire Fanged, if he maybe played the field a little bit differently than he did, he might have been able to kind of maneuver himself into more favorable positions each turn. So I think the 4 he brought could definitely work again if he brings him and just plays it a little differently. I don't know if he needs to go for a Trick Room mode, especially against double Intimidators, which are going to weaken Gigalith and Marowak. You've even got Muck, which is going to be tough to deal with. So I don't know if you need to go for the Trick Room mode, but at least play a little bit differently with the 4 that you bring.
You might want to preserve your Hydro Vortex just for a little bit longer. You know, we saw that Justin was very smart about switching that Arcanine, got the Intimidate off, and really preserved that Tapu Lele for later on. So,
which ended up being key.
And it looks like we're ready now to get underway here in Game 2. Tsao going to lead with Tapu Koko and Oranguru. You know, different. You know, might go for the Trick Room mode now, as Arcanine and Tapu Lele are the leads that Justin decides to go with.
Yeah, and another good lead here for Justin. He's going to get that Psychic Terrain up. Tapu Koko is not going to be able to threaten a ton of damage, though it is Spec, so it's still going to do a decent chunk. But in return, you're going to threaten a whole lot of damage. You can either try and double target the Tapu Koko slot and either take out Tapu Koko if it decides to not Volt Switch, or if it decides to Volt Switch, try and KO whatever comes in. So either have that choice or go after the Oranguru if you just want to prevent Trick Room up. But if you're comfortable playing inside of Trick Room, depending on what Justin has in the back, maybe just go for the knockout on the Tapu Koko slot, knowing that it specs, knowing it can't protect, and knowing that no matter what comes in, you're going to be able to KO anything on the team if you just double target that slot.
Absolutely. You know, maybe this is a turn where Tapu Koko decides to go for Volt Switch to try to set up the Trick Room mode, maybe send it in Gigalith at this moment. Tapu Koko does go for that Volt Switch, hitting into that Tapu Lele slot. Going to do decent damage there, and now well, Tsao's going to get to react to the leads a little bit better with a Momentum Swing, and here comes the Gigalith, and here comes the Trick Room mode.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what Justin goes for.
Yep, the Sandstorm does kick up. Arcanine going for Gigalith, but Gigalith dodges the attack as Tapu Lele now going for a Psychic. It is boosted by that Psychic Train, but Gigalith also gets a boost because of that Sandstream. All Rock-type moves get a boost, or sorry, all Rock-type Pokemon get a special defense buff once it's operating in the Sandstream. Oranguru does take a little bit of chip damage, as each Pokemon will, besides that Gigalith. So now it's time for some Rock Slide fun.
Yeah, that's a really tough turn for Justin there, because that Will-O-Wisp would have really neutered Gigalith's offensive potential there, nailing that switch and deciding to go for what we talked about on turn 1, just knowing that Tapu Koko can protect, and you can just, no matter what comes in, or if Tapu Koko stays in, you would have been in a great spot, and unfortunately that Will-O-Wisp missed for Justin.
Tapu Koko now switching out, or sorry, Tapu Lele now switching out, wanting to preserve it for just a little bit later. Arcanine also using this turn to go for a Protect here, and this is a pretty good defensive play from Justin, as Gigalith goes for a Rock Slide here, going to connect onto Garchomp, which resists this Rock Slide. So, you know, not much damage at all, no chance of flinching since it just came in, as Oranguru does go into Instruct mode here and go for an Instruct to allow Gigalith to go for yet another Rock Slide. It is going to connect with the Garchomp, I believe. It does connect with the Garchomp, again, for minimal damage.
Yeah, Garchomp is in a really good position right here against the Gigalith. Gigalith can't really pick up a knockout onto Garchomp, but I don't know what Justin's last Pokemon is. You don't want to switch in Tapu Lele here. Arcanine's getting threatened by Gigalith. It's going to be tough to see what he decides to bring in. If he brought Muck, I mean, Muck is going to be pretty key in this matchup. I don't know if you even want to risk Muck just taking a ton of damage, but you might have to, simply because Arcanine could also be crucial if there's something like a Kartana in the back. Muck's going to be good against Tapu Koko. It's a tough spot that Justin was put in. If Gigalith was burned right now, then it would be much easier to bring in Muck, because you're not going to get knocked out.
Arcanine going for a switch here. Gyarados coming in. It is going to be that shiny Gyarados, which means that Justin actually has an option to go for a for a Supersonic Sky Strike if it still does carry Bounce. Gigalith now using Earthquake, so that Intimidate is going to be huge here, because that might put Garchomp just outside of range of 2 Earthquakes here. It is going to hit that Garchomp. It is a smart switch gear. Oh no, that's not going to be enough to pick up the KO at all. Oranguru going for yet another Instruct. Going to be able to allow Gigalith to go for yet another Earthquake, but again, that Intimidate also did well. And even without the Intimidate, that would have been...
It still wouldn't have knocked out Garchomp, but we see how big these double Intimidators are paying off for Justin in a way to deal with the Trick Room mode with fast Pokemon.
Yep, and Justin's Garchomp now free to Earthquake since Gyarados is a floating Pokemon. It is going to connect on the Gigalith and do about 40% to the Oranguru on Tsao's side. So now Tsao losing one of the big Trick Room sweepers.
Yeah, I think I would have loved to see the Rock Slide though, because even if Gyarados is the one Pokemon that could have come in, which was extremely likely, so I think you have to go for Rock Slide. Even if it doesn't come in, I mean, Rock Slide plus an Instruct for another Rock Slide, you even have the potential to flinch Garchomp and threaten a ton of damage onto whatever that slot is. But decided to go for the Earthquake. Unfortunately, not enough to pick up the KO onto Garchomp, and now Justin's in a much better position here with both Gyarados and Garchomp out, and Marowak is only able to go for single targeting moves.
Yeah, if Marowak goes for a Shadow Bone into that Garchomp slot, is able to pick up the KO, at least the Shadow Bone will be able to redirect into that Gyarados, but, you know, Gyarados pretty much enjoys facing off against Marowak.
Yeah, and there's still an Arcanine in the back with Intimidate if you even want to bring it in here. Forget the Garchomp, which we see that is probably going to be the case.
Yep, and again, this dual Intimidate core from this Arcanine and the Gyarados paying huge dividends for Justin here as the Arcanine going to drop yet another Intimidate onto the Marowak. Over on Tsao's side, Marowak now using Shadow Bone, gonna go ahead and target down this Gyarados, try and pick up the KO, but that's gonna be a critical hit right there. Big critical hit right there from Tsao's Marowak as Oranguru now going for an Instruct. They're gonna go ahead and tell that Marowak to go for yet another Shadow Bone. Now gonna go ahead and target down the Arcanine. It is intimidated. There's not a critical hit there, but it still does a good amount of damage.
Yeah, so really unfortunate there for Justin, though. We saw Marowak target the Gyarados slot, so Gyarados probably would have gone down with Shadow Bone and then Instruct, but Arcanine still would have been at full HP, so pretty unfortunate for Justin. If his Gyarados had Protect, I would have liked to see a Protect there to try and stall out Trick Room. The longer you stall it out, the better shape you're going to be in, because you still have 4 Pokemon against 3. Your Pokemon are all faster, and Oranguru is getting very low, so once Trick Room ends, you can knock it out, prevent Trick Room from getting up again, and of course there's Tapu Koko in the back, but it is Specs, so if you have Gyarados and Garchomp both around at the same time, it can't go for an electric move because then it's locked into it against Garchomp. If it goes for Dazzling Gleam, Gyarados doesn't really care about Dazzling Gleam, so...
Arcanine, you mean?
If Gyarados was still around.
Okay,
I mean, if it went for a Protect instead of just sacrificing it, then you could have kind of gotten yourself into a win condition there by keeping Gyarados and Garchomp around at the same time to clean up once Trick Room ends, but that's not the case now, so now you got to find another way to win if you're Justin, and that's still going to involve the Garchomp, I think.
Arcanine using Protect here, and I believe Marowak goes for a Shadow Bone. It is going to go ahead and target down that Garchomp, though. That is going to be enough to pick up the KO. The Instruct will just go ahead and hit into that Arcanine Protect. I mean, that turn really came down to which Pokemon was going to Protect there. But, you know, Tsao, go ahead, targeted down the Garchomp, saw the bigger threat, and knocked it out as the Sandstorm subsides, and Trick Room will also return to normal.
Exactly. Tsao did see that Garchomp was the bigger threat, so did go for that slot. So very smart by him picking up the knockout there on Garchomp. Though we do see Tapu Lele come out. It is going to be pretty close here because you do threaten knockouts here. Tapu Lele should be able to pick up the knockout onto Marowak. What'll be interesting is, can Arcanine pick up the KO onto Oranguru with a Flare Blitz?
And then is Justin going to have enough to be able to deal with that Tapu Koko?
Yeah, because Tapu Koko can come in and discharge in electric terrain. That should be enough to pick up the KO on Tapu Lele. Even though Tapu Lele has massive special defense, that should still be enough. So Tsao is in a great position to take this game, no matter what happens to both the Oranguru and the Marowak. Yeah. Although Arcanine, maybe if Flare Blitz gets it low enough to heal back up with a Bury, that could be a win condition.
Marowak now using this turn to Protect, not wanting to lose both his... Tsao not wanting to lose both of his Pokemon this turn, as Arcanine going for the Flare Blitz here, connecting onto Oranguru and picks up the KO easily. That should be enough recoil to activate the Berry on Arcanine, but of course, you know, now when the Tapu Koko comes in, that Discharge is going to be boosted by that electric terrain, and that's a 1.5 times boost.
Yeah, so that's going to be the key part. Can Tapu Lele take a Discharge in electric terrain from Specs Tapu Koko? Ooh, I don't know if it can, but it's all going to depend how that Tapu Lele was trained by Justin.
Yeah, and we've seen that Tapu Lele is a bit slower than usual. Could be invested in bulk or could be invested in raw power.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, but it is threatening a lot of damage now. Unfortunately, it doesn't have its terrain anymore, so it'll be close to see if it can pick up a KO onto the likes of Marowak or Tapu Koko. If it has something like a Choice Specs, then it's still threatening a ton of damage even outside of its terrain. But the big question is going to be, can it take a discharge at this low HP? I don't think it can, but if it's trained really bulky, maybe it can.
We'll have to see here. Arcanine protecting itself, not wanting to give away a full power discharge here, although it may not have been anyways because Marowak would still be out on the field. Lightning Rod boost is irrelevant. Here it comes. The discharge connects onto Tapu Lele. Does Tapu Lele hang on? Tapu Lele does not hang on, and that should do it here for Game 2, and I guess we're almost ready to jump into Game 3.
Yeah, so we actually saw the Trick Room mode work for Tsao this game, although I definitely thought Justin had some chances there to really kind of clinch the win if he maybe played things a little bit differently. If he conserved the Gyarados and the Garchomp, I think he would have been in a great position to take this game. But then you can also say, well, if Tsao went for Rock Slide instead of Earthquake, he would have been in a great position to take that game. So it really could have gone both ways. Of course, even the Will-O-Wisp onto Gigalith.
Missing, yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, so if I'm Justin, I don't really know if I have to make that much of an adjustment.
With the team.
Maybe Muck, more of a focus on Muck because he decided not to bring Muck, and it's good against the Trick Room mode, but after seeing Earthquake on Gigalith, maybe not so much anymore. But it is very good against the Oranguru, against Tapu Koko, against Marowak, if it can attack before Marowak. Otherwise, it's just going to get KO'd most likely by a combination of Flare Blitz and Instruct, but yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what Justin does to adapt. I don't know if he really needs to too much. Perhaps Porygon 2 is an option to try and reverse Trick Room.
Or, even though Gigalith does have access to Earthquake, it is not a same type attack boosted Earthquake, so it won't be doing as much damage.
Exactly. Once it gets intimidated, its Earthquake really isn't going to be doing a whole lot.
Yeah, as long as it can deal with that Gigalith, then really Muck has free reign. I mean, looking at the composition of Tsao's team, you have Marowak, weak to knock off, you have Tapu Koko, weak to poison, and even Oranguru. You don't want your Oranguru to get knocked off either. That's going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, and a lot of Mucks carry Flamethrower, so if you have Kartana too, that's risky in against Muck. So it'll be... I think Muck could definitely be a good pick. It's just... if Trick Room gets up and Marowak ends up slower than Muck and Oranguru ends up slower than Muck, you could try and pick up the KO onto Muck with a combination of Flare Blitz and Instruct, or Boomerang and Instruct, depending on what HP Muck is at and if it still has its Bury, of course. But I still like Muck in this matchup if you want something to go up against the Trick Room mode.
Yeah, and Tsao now really thinking hard about what to do. Justin's already locked in his team, and here we are, Game 3. Winner of this game will move on to Day 2. A Day 2 invite is something that a lot of players vie for. Not all players will be able to get Day 2 invites, and it's such an achievement, in my opinion. I'm not saying... Day 1 invite's already an achievement in its own for being able to compete well all season, but, that Day 2 invite, that just puts you one step closer to the World Championship.
Yeah, you're going up against the best in the world here in Day 1, so just managing to advance to Day 2 is a huge accomplishment.
And here we go. It's the exact same leads as the last game. Tapu Koko and Oranguru leads for Tsao Che-Ming. And Justin going to go ahead and lead with Tapu Lele and Arcanine. Again, that Arcanine is going to be moving before that Tapu Lele, so, this does give Tsao the exact same option. Volt switch out, go into Gigalith. But
you risk a Will-O-Wisp again. We'll see if Justin also maybe wants to adjust. I don't know if that Tapu Lele ends up being Specs. Does a combination of Specs, Moonblast, and Flare Blitz KO Oranguru? I don't know. That's something Justin would definitely know. But again, just targeting that Tapu Koko slot might be a lot safer because you can take out either Tapu Koko or whatever comes in, or almost, if it's Gigalith, almost take it out and burn it if your Will-O-Wisp hits. So I think targeting that Tapu Koko slot with both Pokemon is a little bit safer. It always is going to result in a good outcome, unless, like we saw last game, Will-O-Wisp misses. But even so, Justin still almost brought that game back. So I think just doing the same thing again is going to pay huge dividends.
Yep, and of course, you know, it's going to go down towards the mid-game where Justin kind of faltered once the Trick Room mode came up. Tapu Lele switching out instead. Garchomp going to come in, exert a lot of pressure, maybe blocking a possible Volt Switch in that slot, but instead, Tapu Koko goes for a Discharge, not affecting the Garchomp. It is going to hit the Arcanine. Going to do decent damage, about 40%, as Arcanine now going for a Flare Blitz here. Going to connect onto the Oranguru slot, doing some damage. Does a lot of damage with the critical hit right there. Arcanine taking a lot of damage because of recoil, and now Oranguru setting up the Trick Room. So now the Trick Room sweeper is not in for Tsao.
That's huge because now Tsao has to spend a turn of Trick Room readjusting his board position. Oranguru, that critical hit, did massive damage. So now Oranguru may even get KO'd before the Trick Room sweepers end up coming in. Garchomp and Arcanine are both going to outspeed Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko can't protect. It has to switch out or risk getting knocked out. This is a really good position for Justin.
Yeah.
I think that switch into Garchomp, clearly he was trying to lock Tapu Koko in thinking it would go for a Volt Switch, but instead Tapu Koko voluntarily decided to just stay in and discharge.
Tapu Koko using its... oh, that's right. Instruct will still allow Tapu Koko to go for a possible discharge here. Tapu Koko does go for the discharge, and of course that should be enough to pick up the KO, so smart from Justin to realize my Arcanine is threatened to be KO'd. I'm just going to go ahead and go for a... Well, never mind. Arcanine hangs on. It's the master of hanging on to take 3 discharges, now maybe even 4? It's going to be close. Garchomp using Earthquake, it's not going to matter because Arcanine is just going to go ahead and get KO'd by the own Earthquake, but that is going to go ahead and knock out 2 Pokemon on Tsao's side. And now Justin Burns has 2 more Pokemon on knockout to try to move on to day 2.
Yeah, really, really good position there by Justin. Guaranteeing the KO onto both Pokemon there with the Earthquake. It's going to be really tough for Tsao here because Garchomp is in at full HP, and the Trick Room sweepers we saw just didn't have what it took to really deal a whole lot of damage to Garchomp, especially if Gyarados is in the back, you know, to provide Intimidate. And then you even still have Tapu Lele at full health in the back if Trick Room is able to expire by the time it comes in, and there is the Gyarados. So this is looking really good for Justin.
Yep, Gyarados going to drop another Intimidate on to, well, both Marowak and Gigalith. I believe a combo of Rock Slide and Shadow Bone should still be enough to pick up the KO on the Gyarados, but that Garchomp on the other side, free to Earthquake, so you're going to have to rely on some flinches if you're Tsao.
Yeah, though Gigalith does get access to Wide Guard, but even if you Wide Guard against Earthquake, nothing's going to be able to take out Gyarados if Gigalith isn't going for an attack. So I think you just have to go for an attack with Gigalith here rather than a Wide Guard, but I mean, Rock Slide can't flinch, so there's always that option.
You either
if it's Z move, you can go for the KO onto Gyarados, but if Gyarados just protects, I mean, then Garchomp's getting off a free Earthquake. So it's really tough here for Tsao.
Yeah, you're either fishing for the critical hit on that Garchomp Shadow Bone, or you're fishing for that flinch.
Yeah.
So it's a game of odds right now.
Yep, and the odds are definitely in Justin's favor at this point, but as we've seen in both of the previous matches, it's never over.
Gigalith now using Rock Slide, going to connect on Gyarados and Garchomp. You can see the look on Justin's face. Are his Pokemon going to be able to move here as Marowak goes for a Shadow Bone, going to connect onto that Gyarados and pick up what I believe is going to be the KO. It is enough to pick up the KO, and now Garchomp is going to be able to go for an Earthquake. It goes for an Earthquake, does not flinch at all, doing massive damage here. Gigalith does have a high physical defense stat. Marowak hangs on, Gigalith hangs on, but another Earthquake will be enough to pick up the win here for Justin.
Yep, and Tapu Lele is going to come in the back. Both Pokemon are getting very low, and both Tapu Lele and Garchomp have access to double targeting moves, spread moves, in the likes of Dazzling Gleam and Earthquake, should they end up needing it. Of course, Gigalith does always have the potential to have Wide Guard, so that would be a little risky to go for that, but Justin's still in a very, very good position. I think if you're Tsao, you're still fishing for the flinches with that Rock Slide.
Yeah, I think if you're Justin, you really don't want to lock yourself into a spread move.
Definitely not because of the threat of Wide Guard. Yep, there it is.
Gigalith now using Wide Guard here as the Marowak goes for a Shadow Bone, gonna hit that Tapu Lele. Again, this could be a bulkier Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele barely hangs on as Tapu Lele goes for a Psychic here, gonna connect onto that Gigalith, doing enough to pick up the KO, and you know, a couple more turns of sand will mean... Oh! Justin goes straight for a Dragon Claw. No need to risk trying to play some mind games with that Wide Guard, and instead picks up the KO with a Dragon Claw. Justin Burns Congratulations, you've made it to day 2 of the World Championships.
Yeah, very impressive showing there by Justin. He played great that entire match, and really, you can't blame Tsao for what he did on that last turn either. He hadn't revealed wide guard the entire match, so if there was any point throughout the entire match to use wide guard, it was then, when your opponent maybe is the least expecting it because you hadn't revealed it the entire set. Unfortunately, Justin just